Yo, what's up, guys? This is Why Not Be Reckless, aka Why Not Be Casting. I'm one of the HCS commentators, and we have another HCS Weekly Report where today we're going to be breaking down everything that happened during the 4K over the weekend and what made it so important. Some new kids on the block. We had some crazy upsets. We had some amazing matches. If you didn't watch it, I highly recommend watching the VODs on twitch.tv/LVT Halo. Your boy, we got to cast a little bit. Make sure you check it out because it was crazy. But first, before we get into the actual tournament itself, why don't we talk about first why this tournament actually mattered? You keep in mind that, like, when we're going to LAN, only the top 10 teams from North America are going to be invited to LAN. So anybody who's within this like group of like 7 through, I would say, 12 is not safe. They have to fight, and there could be some huge movement as well. Like even like Status Quo can like, have a really good tournament and shoot up the leaderboard. And when we look at the 4Ks, what the 4K stands for is 4,000 points per player when you win. It's like 16,000 points just for first place. I think it's about maybe 9,600 for second place. So you can see a lot of movement just from one tournament. Complexity, if they outplace Proton, Avengers, or Sentinels, they'll shoot up the leaderboard. Same for Cloud9, same for Proton Gaming, which is going to be really important in case you guys were watching, which we're going to talk about real quick. So first, let's talk a little bit about pool play real quick. It was Optic that 3-0'd Sentinels with the 2-1. Avengers were looking good, but ended up in third place, and sadly, Darkest Hour wasn't able to make it to bracket play when it came to these squads. I'll go over the rosters real quick, just in case you guys forgot. Optic, APG, Formal, Lucid, and Trippy. Sentinels, King Nick, Lethal, Spartan, and the newly acquired Suspector, Avengers. Us, Neuronical, Precision, and Swish 5s, and then Darkest Hour, which I actually don't have their squad with me right now, but that was M305, Grand Shiesty, and the boys. These guys are absolutely talented. They've qualified now for 2 4Ks. Sadly, weren't able to make it into championship bracket. Then on Pool B, you have FaZe, obviously Frosty, Renegade, Royal 2, and Snake, but I'm pretty sure you guys know that. Proton Gaming, they're a little bit newer. They're a little newer to the scene. I love me some Proton. That's made up of, I'm gonna test the knowledge a little bit. Breaking Shot, Common, Posey, and now Squale is filling in for that roster. And then you have Rebellion, who's Carbea, Ryan, Brain, and Mental from Gears of War, and you have Lot, which is captained by Envor. Sadly, it was FaZe that 3-0'd, Proton that 2-1, even upsetting Rebellion, who had a higher seed than they did, but Lot, captained by Envor, wasn't able to make it through into bracket play, one of the 4 teams that qualified through the qualifiers. After that, Pool C, you have Complexity coming in out of nowhere. We got to talk about Complexity, Cycle, Tusk, and then reuniting Cycle and Monster together. Monster coming in pretty quickly, and then Collect, who was dropped off of Sentinels, went on his revenge arc. Complexity coming out with the 2-1 and winning the tiebreaker over G1, who G1 had a recent change as well. Boo Boo Dubu, Falcated, Sabinator, and Suppress the newly acquired from that Complexity roster, which is crazy. You know, Suppress decides to leave Complexity and join G1, and then Complexity comes in and gets their revenge with their new squad. That's always fun to watch. And then Space Station Gaming, who, by the way, were the top seed in this pool, the 3rd seed so far in the entire tournament out of all 16 teams. They end up in 3rd place, make it through into the championship bracket. However, didn't make it to the winner's side and had to fight through the losers bracket at Space Station Gaming, and then Status Quo, captained by King J. Although they were able to get a big win, by the way, I think they beat G1, I want to say, in a game 5. Although they were able to get a big win onto G1, sadly, because this pool was so close and so crazy, like even that win over G1 wasn't enough to get Status Quo into championship bracket. They end up being knocked out before championship Sunday. And then you have Pool D, Native White with the 3-0, Native White, that's excuse me, Barcode, Tapping Buns, McWin, and Gilkey. Native Red, that's Druck, Manny, Soul Snipe, and Taulik. Team Mantra coming out. Team Mantra, by the way, coming in out of the qualifier, the only team to qualify and make it through. That was that old meta roster. It was Super CC, Septified, 2 members formerly of Fnatic, and then joining them was Mortally and Ace coming in instead of Bohm. That was a major change, and I believe Bohm is actually on Cloud9 right now, who weren't able to get a win in pool play, and sadly weren't able to get into that top 3, and Cloud9, despite being one of the higher seeds, was ultimately knocked out. So that brings us into bracket play. I just want to kind of set that up real quick, and why some of the teams end up in the lower bracket. Like, some people probably look at it, like, how did SSG, or how were SSG in the lower bracket? How was X, Y, and Z word here? So now you guys are seeing through pool play, and this is where the tournament really began, if you will. You know, this is where the tournament kind of went crazy here. So let's talk about it. Optic Gaming, 3 over Proton. Love me some Proton, but sadly weren't enough to get a single win on Optic. And to be honest, I'm not really surprised there. Optic are tough to beat. They're the #1 team in the world. And although Proton Gaming are quickly, starting to become, that top 8 contender, maybe even going into the top 6 category on a great day, it's still tough. It's still Optic Gaming that we're talking about. Complexity with the 3 over Native White. Now that was surprising. Native White coming off of that 4th place finish at Charlotte, looking very good since after Charlotte online. They were putting in the work in every one of the 2Ks, every one of the 4Ks. You had Native White definitely making it to the semifinals, and who knows, maybe with the right matchup we could have seen them in the winners bracket finals, but they got swept by Complexity. And that's when we started to realize, like, this ain't luck, man. Complexity not only topped their seed in pools, but then beat out a very capable Native White. We're going to talk about them the rest of the tournament, but Complexity were out of control yesterday. And when we talk about the new kids on the block, we're really talking about them. G1 did 3-0 Native Red. I can't say I'm like surprised that G1 won this. I am surprised that it was a sweep and Native Red weren't able to get a win off of them, because I think Native Red historically have played G1 very well. In fact, Native Red have gotten plenty of wins onto G1 as well. And sadly, it didn't happen here, but G1 move on, and then face 3-0 Sentinels. No real surprise there. I would love to see Sentinels get a win off of them, but again, just like Optic, you're talking about a top 2 team in the world. This is where things get a little bit crazy, because the #1 team in the world in Optic Gaming get 3-2'd by Complexity and knocked down into the losers bracket, where they have to fight for their lowest seed in HCS this year. Like, if they lose one more match after losing to Complexity, they get top 6. We're talking about a team that's been winning every tournament, left and right. Complexity. Good God. FaZe 3-1 over G1. We've seen G1 actually upset FaZe in the past, but FaZe are still top 2 in the world. FaZe definitely earned this win to make it into the winners bracket finals, but not the last time we see G1 or any of these teams again. We had a lower bracket, and it was pretty crazy. Eventually in the winners bracket, FaZe do 3-0 Complexity. So bring Complexity back to reality. FaZe, like, hold on, young bucks. You need to relax. Brought them back into reality as FaZe get the 3-0, and Complexity have to win one more series in order to make it back into the grand finals, which is not going to be easy when you have the likes of Optics. It's not going to be easy when you have the likes of G1s, Native Reds, and some very hungry squads in that lower bracket. But why don't we talk about it? Space Station with the 3 over Avengers. Avengers, a very good squad, end up having to start through the lower bracket. They got the 3-1 over Native Red, but Space Station Gaming sweep them on their way back to greatness, because Space Station Gaming starting off much lower than we would expect. Native Red with the 3-2 over Sentinels. love that Sentinels took Native Red to a game 5, and then at that point, anything can happen in the game 5. It just so happens that Native Red come out with the win. But we've been talking about, will Sentinels look better with Suspector? And I think all of us would agree that Sentinels looked really good over the tournament, over the weekend. I don't think there's anybody that looked at Sentinels gameplay and saw them, go toe-to-toe with Optic. At one point in that game 3 against Optic in pool play, Sentinels should have been up 2-1. That's really what it felt like. They were actually looking so good against Optic in that first series, but eventually they ended up losing. Native Red ended up winning, and again, this is where things get a little crazy in the lower bracket, because you have G1, Gamers First, coming out with the 3-2 win over Space Station Gaming. Like, historically, Space Station Gaming have played G1 very tough. And even though G1 have gotten a few upsets onto Space Station Gaming, you still had Space Station Gaming as the favorites. They've still beaten them probably more times than G1 have beaten them. And they were still the number 3 team in the world in a tournament that really mattered. And G1 pulling off the upset to guarantee them a spot in the top 4. And in a tournament that was full of upsets, why stop there? Native Red 3-1 over Optic Gaming, giving Optic again their lowest the lowest placing so far this year in the HCS. Optic ended top 6. Do I have to tell you how crazy it is that Optic got upset by not only Complexity but also Native Red and ended in top 6, the number 1 team in the world? The team that was looking so dominant online, that finally, when they started to catch fire on land, end up winning back-to-back lands, get upset and knocked out in top 6. I'm telling you, it ain't cookie cutter no more. Teams are getting better. Teams are putting in the work. And teams are starting to catch up as Optic get knocked out in 6th place, or top 6, excuse me. G1 did get the 3 over Native Red again. Not only did G1 3-0 Native Red in the winners bracket round 1, again against a team that normally plays them so well. In fact, Native Red have gotten some impressive wins over G1 in tournament play. G1 again sweep them 6-0 over Native Red, on their way to a top 3 finish in the loser bracket finals. We talk about Native Red being that top, getting that top 3 at Worlds, and being the most dangerous team in the league, and we found that out the hard way. Just like anybody feels like they can win against Native Red, you got to realize that when Native Red are playing the way they did over the weekend, specifically Sunday, they can beat any team in the league, and that includes Optic Gaming. So big shout out to Native Red. Want to get that out of the way. And then G1, with that 1 team change bringing in Suppressed, how many times have you heard me say on these shows that I thought G1 were the 4th best team in the world? I thought eventually G1 would surpass Space Station Gaming later on in the year, and we never saw G1 kind of hit those strides. Well, with a 3 over Native Red, a guaranteed top 3 no matter what happens from there, we're finally starting to see G1, not just look good, not just look great, because we know they were good. We know they were great. We wanted to see them look elite. And over the weekend, they looked like an elite team. They looked like a team that was ready to truly contend for the top 4, to truly contend for the top 3. Yesterday showed me a lot about Gamers First. But it also showed me a lot about Complexity. Complexity coming out with the 3-0 over G1. Not only were Complexity able to come out number 1 in their seed, okay, which by the way was amazing on its own. Not only were they able to 3-0 Native White, not only were they able to upset Optic Gaming, but they also 3-0 G1 to get back into the grand finals, to go up against FaZe, and then bring FaZe, by the way, into a game 7, into a 49-49 game 7 against FaZe. Complexity weren't able to get the win. But if you were watching that tournament and you dare say out of your lying mouths that Complexity aren't the real deal, I don't know what you were looking at. Dude, I watch enough anime to know what a revenge arc looks like. Collect's on his revenge arc. Cycle continues to show that he's a future star, a future superstar in the league. And if you haven't been noticing what Cycle's been able to do at the ripe age of 15 or 16 years old, start watching, because he's only going to get better. And now that he paired up with Collect, two players that are high damage dealing players, two players that know how to stay alive, and two players that can just make the game so much easier for Tusk and Monster to come in and clean up those kills, and the objective efficiency is there as well because they're unselfish. Watch out, man. Complexity put everyone on notice. They were the biggest question mark. They changed out half their roster, but coming in as the 11th seed, if DreamHack Dallas would have started on Friday, Complexity would have not been involved. They would have been left out looking in. But now, with the big second place finish and almost a damn win, Complexity put themselves in a whole new bracket, a whole new tier than they were at before. And again, we are not only seeing new kids on the block, we may be witnessing a new era within Halo esports, where the young guns are starting to really put everybody on notice. And that's what I'm excited for. Guys, that's your HCS Weekly Report. Thank you so much for stopping by. FaZe are your champions for the 4K. That's going to create a lot of movement within the points because, again, you have you get 16,000 points, so that propels them to 48,000. I don't know how much Optic get for top 8, to be honest with you, but Optic and FaZe are going to be very close by points. Maybe they get, I don't know, maybe 6, maybe 5,000 to Optic for top 6. It's not that much. This is going to be a very close race after FaZe get their 16,000 and after Optic get their maybe 6,000 for getting top 6. So watch out for the rest of the year, guys. When we go to DreamHack, we may just have a new #1 seeded team if FaZe continue to perform like this and Optic continue to get upset like this. All right, guys, peace out.